Hello group, Jeff here. Today I want to do a video along the same lines as the Nina and Mellencamp Sky, a match made for the Heavens series. Except instead of Mellencamp Sky, today we'll use SharpCap with a Mellencamp camera. And the reason why I want to do this is that SharpCap offers some features that Mellencamp Sky doesn't in the live stacking. We will get into those features in a moment, but first, what I want to do is bring up, you can use the direct show drivers, the Mellencamp direct show driver, or the ASCOM driver. And both have pros and cons, but I think in my particular case, the direct show driver is limiting me with my DS24 and 62 to exposures of 1 second, 2 second, 4 second, 8 second, 16, 32, and the number just keeps going up by 2. That's a problem for me. And the other problem is that it has a maximum bit depth of 8. That just isn't going to work for what I do. I like to post my data, and I 8-bit images aren't something I'm interested in. So for me, the direct show driver is not going to work. Now, I will add that I tested the direct show driver and SharpCap with the DS287 and the 3.2 Plus, and I don't have this problem. I can pick any exposure I want, but it still will be an 8-bit. Now, the ASCOM driver, you lose some of these extra camera controls by using the ASCOM driver, but you get the full bit depth of the camera. So in the 24 case, that's 14-bit. In the 62 case, that's 16-bit. So what I will do now is open up, I have a PC that's off to my right, your left, that has the DS24 connected. The cap is on, so we won't get a whole lot of data. And this is the screen. We will start SharpCap. And before I do anything as far as settings go in SharpCap, I just want to show you the differences between the direct show driver, which is this one, and the ASCOM driver, which is this one. So we'll load the direct show driver, and I will turn off my face. And you will see that over here we have all kinds of extra camera settings that you do not get in the ASCOM driver. But the biggest stinker is I can't drag the slider for exposure. The only thing I have is 1 second, 2 seconds. If I go to 3, let's see what it does. It goes to 4 seconds. If I do 6, it should go to 8, which it did. If I do 10, it will go back to 8. If I do 12, it should go to 16, which it did. And now the next jump is going to be 32. So if I go 20, it'll jump back to 16. If I do 24, it should go to 32. So it's rounding up or down. And the next jump would be 64. So if I want to do 48, it goes to 64. So that's a no bueno for me. The other negative is that it's 8-bit. So we will close this and open it up again in the ASCOM driver. Now I want you to look after I'll show you my settings. This is the DS24. It's a 14-bit camera. In 8-bit, the black level is 4. In 14-bit, it's 256. I'm in RGB, low noise, high contrast gain, frame rate high, gain of 64, black level of 256, and the heater is on. We'll say okay, and over here we'll look at the camera controls, and all I have is exposure, and down here I have gain and maximum frame rate. I do have the various bin levels. I only use 1 and 2. So we'll leave it at 4 seconds. I can add a master flat or a master dark. And we will jump into these settings first that I feel you need to have for SharpCap to run correctly with a Mallincam. So the first tab in SharpCap settings is the general tab. And because we're jumping between Nina and SharpCap, we want to have this one checked because we're closing the camera in SharpCap and then starting the camera in Nina. Then when we're done with the Nina stuff, we're closing the camera in Nina and then starting it again in SharpCap. And we want to pick up the settings that we were using, which this will do. So if you, for instance, if you had a master flat and a master dark, it will remember that, your exposure and your gain. So you can get right into imaging. So you want to have that selected. And I have a graphics card, so I want to use that because it has more floating point cores than your CPU will. A lot more. The saving tab, these are my settings, which you can pretty much do whatever you want. Mainly, my settings are set up for Photoshop work, and I am saving out 16-bit data. The hardware, if you wanted to have SharpCap control your mount, your focuser, your filter wheel, your rotator, you would enter all that pertinent stuff in here. I would only have the mount and the focuser running, but I will not have, at this time, I am not sure that I will ever do an autofocus in SharpCap. I'm going to always do it in Nina because Nina has better tools, I feel, for autofocusing. And the mount control, I just turn it on because I have the CPWI. You can connect multiple devices using CPWI, and it would not matter. You can see down here, once the scope is connected, you do have some slew control would pop up down here. File names, that's also self-explanatory. Memory, this is the big one. Now there's 2 types of cache or memory settings. One would be for high-speed frame cache, which would be where you're capturing planetary, lunar, or solar data, and you would want to skew the memory higher for that. But because I'm more interested in the live stacking and display modes, I'm skewing the RAM towards that. And SharpCap is going to use approximately 50% of your RAM, or can use 50% of your system resources or RAM. And if you leave it stock, so it would be 1024, 1024, you're going to have out of memory errors because SharpCap it needs the memory to do the alignments and stacking. So how you do that is you would just, I like to select this bar and then use the arrow key, and it will jump in the increments that makes the most sense. And it will go until it eventually won't move anymore. And you can see I can grab this and it won't go because it's already at the maximum allowed for my system. I can go down, but I can't go up. And again, if you're doing planets, solar, or lunar, you wanna reverse this. But because I'm more interested in the live stacking features, excuse me, I'm happy where this is at. And I've not had any memory problems with these settings. Plate solving, I wouldn't use I'm sorry, I wouldn't use SharpCap to do my plate solving, but it's there if I want to because I have ASTAP and I have it configured to use ASTAP, and you can test it. You can see that it's very happy with how I have it set up. I don't do polar alignment. Guiding is the biggie here. So you want to have this one checked if you guide when you stack, because this will cue, or I'm sorry, SharpCap will look for the PhD server so that it can send the different commands, and you need to have that checked. I don't log and I don't have any startup scripts. So you would apply that, and then you need to close and restart SharpCap after that you made these changes. But I'm good because I'm at where I want to be. And now what we would do is go right into live stack. And because the cap is on, it's only going to stack one frame. So you'll see that it's going to ignore every frame after one because it's not finding any stars to do the alignment on. So we will start with the screen that we see here. This gives you an overview of what's happening. So this tells you how many frames have been stacked. This tells you how many frames have been ignored. And these ignored frames are based on these settings. The total exposure, I'm currently at 4 seconds. There's only one in the stack, 4-second total exposure. You can clear the stack to start over. You can save the stack when you're happy. I like to save as 16 bits. You would name your target up here before you save it though. And then once you have the name in, then you can save it and it will use that name to create a folder with the data in it. You can pause the stack. So if you're into LDHR, you can pause the stack, change your exposure or gain, however you want to do it. I am aligning frames. I'm not doing the FWHM because my skies are bright. And I can get a lot of false positives because of that. The brightness filter I do use, it seems to help a little bit. Now, autosave on clear or close is when, let's just say you got out of the live stack and you close the program, it will save what's in the buffer so you don't lose the data. You can view the stack or individual frames that make up the stack. You can stack the default stack and Sigma Clip. I use Sigma Clip because that gives you satellite plane rejection and bad seeing. And then in the status window, you get a little more information about how the stack is going. So you have your frame count, your total exposure, your maximum pixel value, the bit depth you can see is, it's a 14-bit camera and I'm at 8. What happens is as the stack builds, the bit depth goes up on that data. So you're kind of chasing the histogram for a little bit because the bit depth is expanding, which is moving the histogram a little bit to the right. This gives you the stacking time, the render time, and the save raw time. The histogram is one of the best features there is for live stacking or for live viewing of a linear image. This image is a linear image. So if you reset this and happened to be looking at a starry background, we might see 3 or 4 of the brightest stars, and that's it. The only way you're going to see it is by moving the mid slider, which is a form of a stretch. And you can see how the background is brightening. Well, your data will do the same thing. The other nice thing about the SharpCap histogram is that when you move the black point, you see what the mids are doing? The mids are chasing it. That's a beautiful thing. So what happens is on the first frame, you have a very rotten, rough, jaggy looking histogram. On the second frame, the histogram starts to tighten up and move a little bit to the right. So you have to move the black point to follow the histogram change. And you don't want to be messing with mids because you've already got it set up the way you want it. So you just move the black point and the mids are going to follow. You don't know how nice that is. The other nice thing is that, or I should say, is that as the stack is building, the bit depth is expanding, which is giving you more range in your colors. So you want to do an auto color balance a little more often in the beginning of the stack to keep your colors accurate. Now these colors don't get, or these histogram and color changes do not get saved with the data. Remember, this is a linear file. This is just for viewing what the stack should look like after you pre or post process it in a program like Cyril, where you can use their stretching tools and color calibration tools to get the data the way you want it. Alignment, you can see I am aligning. I just use the stock settings for the alignment outside of the fact that I did select the suppress hot pixels. And where this comes in handy is, say you didn't have a master dark, and you're at 64 gain, you're going to get a lot of hot pixels. What will happen is as that stack builds and the bit depth starts going up, it's going to start working on those hot pixels. It will take a while, but you will see that as the stack gets bigger, the hot pixels get fewer. And that's a nice little handy feature. I just leave it on because I always forget about it. And stacking, I'm using Sigma clipping and the default settings. Enhancements would be similar to what you can do in Mallincam Sky. I just stick with sharpening. This is just for this view, not for the data. Okay, so when you save the file, you're not saving this. Guiding, this is a biggie. You want to turn on the monitor guiding application, and you want to turn on automatic dither if you guide. SharpCap will see the PhD because we've told it to look for the PhD server. And when you go into live stack for the first time, if you are already guiding, it will tell you up here that it's found the guider. And then after so many frames, or seconds in this case, you can do it by frames or seconds, it will do a dither. Now you don't want to do a dither, which is why I try to do frames. Or if you, let me rephrase that. If you want to do a dither every couple, 3 minutes is probably plenty for a short exposure. But as the exposures start getting longer, a 3-minute, 300 seconds is 5 minutes, so 3 minutes would be 240, I believe. Or is that 4 minutes? What would be 60? Would be 180. 180 would be 3 minutes. That's kind of like what I like to do because I'm usually around in bin 2, depending on the target, I can be between 8 and 24 seconds. And that's if I'm at 3 minutes between dithers, that's plenty. The reason why you want a dither is it helps with walking noise, and again, it will also help if you don't have a flat, or not a flat, but uh, a dark. It will also work on those hot pixels. The FWHM, you can see there's some red ones here. That's we really can't tell much because the cap is on. But on the next video, you will see how I use this. This can help you determine how or what type of scene you have. This will go up and down based on each frame. And if you're getting a lot of red, then your scene is really, really bad. Like you might even have haze in the air or in the sky. And the software is smart enough to see that and go red. I use the filter brightness, but this is, you really can't tell what this does because there's no data. And the drift graph, if you're dithering, it's going to show you have drift when you really don't. So I wouldn't put too much into it, and I don't log. So these are the SharpCap settings that I use and have used successfully. And if anyone has any questions, you know where I'm at. And look for the next video to come out shortly where I actually have a session with Nina, SharpCap, and Stellarium along the same lines as the Nina and Mallincam Sky video that I made. I think you will be interested. It's kind of eye-opening. So we'll see y'all on the group. Thanks.